Happy Friday, Striver. No matter how your week went, I know that as a person who is practicing personal development, you're going to own it. You're going to take responsibility for how this week went, not because you can control all the external events and all the crazy stuff that probably happened to you this week, but because you have the ability to respond in a way that is in integrity, that supports you, that helps heal you or move you forward. That's the beauty of personal development. That's the beauty of self-awareness and self-mastery. And that is the topic of today's Daily Fire. Because I know at some point today, if you're following what we teach here at Growth Day, you're probably going to open up your plan section and you're going to look at what we call your Friday finishers. I hope you are creating those lists in the plan section. The plan section, you can name a to-do list, essentially, or create a project, or write out all your goals. You can set dates, deadlines, reminders. But one thing we always suggest you do is make your Friday finisher list. I make mine usually on Sundays or Mondays, and I just type in Friday finisher, and I write down all the things I'm going to deliver by the end of Friday. Now, I don't always get all those things done. Matter of fact, there's usually 4 or 5 items that I might not have gotten to. But you know what? I'm moving the ball forward. And no matter how I do on that Friday finisher list, I also tend to score my week, just looking back to see how I did in my life score section. And sometimes I don't like those numbers either. But I don't get down on myself. I give myself grace. And most importantly, I take responsibility for wherever I'm at. What does self-responsibility mean even? You know, we hear a lot about it in personal development and psychology. And to me, it basically means you take ownership of your life. And that means specifically 5 things to me. Number 1, self-responsibility always starts with your thoughts. You are the director of your own thoughts. You have the power to think, and you have the power to direct those thoughts. Now, it's true, lots of random thoughts come up, and it's true, tons of unconscious thoughts guide us throughout the day. But what makes the ultimate difference is those things that we direct our mind towards. That if you overreacted to a situation, you got mad at somebody, and you kept thinking about it all day, all night, at some point, that's a choice to have that recurrent thought. Also, you walk by somebody, you think, oh, she's ugly. Or you scroll by something, oh, they're stupid. Or something happens in your life and you throw a judgment at somebody else. That's a thought, isn't it? And we also have lots of negative thoughts. Negative thoughts about ourselves, about our life situation, about other people. Ultimately, we have to take responsibility for those. We have to know that we're the only ones who can change those, aim those, direct those. It's up to us to be proactive in choosing positive thoughts about ourselves and the world and our opportunities. It doesn't mean we have no negative thoughts. In fact, it's impossible not to have negative thoughts. And negative thoughts are often very, very, very helpful to direct us. But it does mean that we're in charge of our thoughts over a period of time. Of course, we can have a bad day, a bad moment, a negative reaction. But on par, every day we take responsibility and we say, I'm going to aim my thoughts. I'm going to choose them. I'm going to use affirmations or conscious thinking so that I can make sure that I'm motivating myself with my thoughts. I'm honoring myself with my thoughts. I'm honoring others. I'm putting goodness out into the world by thinking positively for others and for the world versus just complaining in our head, just feeling bad, just telling ourselves the same old story we told ourselves since high school. No one's going to change those thoughts about ourselves. We must be responsible for them. Second, we are responsible for our feelings. Now, this comes in handy to remember that emotions are different than feelings. Emotions tend to be automatic, impulsive, physical, and often unconscious, meaning suddenly you can watch something and just feel sad. You can have an emotion that's angry. You can have an emotion that's feeling embarrassed. You can have an emotion that's happy or joyful. You have positive emotions, neutral emotions, and some that maybe people wouldn't necessarily approve of me saying, negative emotions, but you certainly know when they're negative emotions. Now, emotions, because they're automatic, impulsive, physical, and sometimes unconscious, you don't get to choose all those. Those kind of rise up on you. But what lingers around and what exists a little bit later, feelings or ongoing feelings, we have a tremendous amount of control over those. And we can choose to generate the feelings through our thoughts and our reactions in such a way that we teach ourselves to be in more positive emotional ranges. It doesn't mean that we don't dip into the negative. It doesn't mean that there's not a spectrum of reaction and emotion and feeling in the world. It doesn't discount the bad ones, and it doesn't honor or celebrate and think you always have to be in what, quote unquote, we call the positive ones. But ultimately, if somebody hurts your feelings, you've got to be in charge somewhere there, don't you? Yeah, they did something in the world that you did not like, and it caused an emotion of hurt. But if you're hanging on to that hurt 3 days later, it's time to get responsible for whether or not that feeling is helpful to you or hurtful to you. A lot of people hang on to their emotions by defining something as cataclysmic or tremendously catastrophic. They define things as personal. They define things as it's going to be around forever. And through their definitions and their labels of the emotion, the truth is they forget that the emotion actually does pass relatively quickly. Some psychologists suggest that emotions actually pass through us in just minutes, and they're actually gone. But it's our labels that holds on to it. It's our meaning and attachment to what happened, and now the story and the thoughts we tell ourselves over and over and over that makes a feeling linger days and weeks and months, and some folks decades later. It doesn't mean that they're wrong. It just means it's time to question whether or not those feelings are helpful. And this is where therapy or coaching becomes a tremendous asset. To get perspective from others, to hear about how you're processing things. Because many people process things in incredibly disempowering ways. And the same event that one person experiences, another person experiences, because we personalize them, suddenly one person is empowered and one person is disempowered because they took an emotion, labeled it, put a meaning to it, told a story to it, and repeated it over and over and over without questioning the assumptions behind it, the emotions that actually did happen, the events that were observable, the helpfulness or hurt of their thoughts. I'm not saying there's a right or wrong. I'm saying you should be aware of whether or not your feelings are supporting you. I think everyone wants to be in a positive emotional range, and so we have to sometimes look back to events in our lives that we're still hanging on to in terms of feeling and revisit them, restate them, maybe re-envision them, or simply release them. Sometimes we have to look back and honor them in a different way or learn from them. Sometimes we know we can't change it, but we can change what it means to us today as adults. That's about being responsible. We also don't blame other people for our feelings. And that's a hard one. It's very much easy to do that. But I remember the story of the Buddha who, when asked how they dealt with somebody accusing him or attacking him, what did he say? He said, "Oh, when they go to hand me anger, I simply don't accept it. That's their thing, not mine. Now, of course, I'm sure that's been attributed to a lot of people, and I have no idea if the Buddha actually said that, nor do you, but it sounds like a good story, doesn't it? I love it because it just reminds you, you don't have to accept the gift of other people's emotions and feelings either. You have your own internal world. Protect it. Be responsible for it. Third big idea is we're responsible for our focus, our aim, our goals, whatever you want to call it. I'll just use the language of aim. What we are directing or aiming our attention, our efforts to over a long period of time, that's up to us. Sure, when the kids run in, they can, quote unquote, steal our attention for a few moments or half a day. But ultimately, your long-term focus over a week, your goals over a week, you're responsible for those. And if you don't believe that, what ultimately happens is you become slave to everybody else's agenda. You become pulled into everybody else's desires, needs, attention getting. And of course, when you do that, you lose focus on your internal world and what your heart really desires. That's why we got to be responsible for it. Fourth, we have to be responsible for our results. And people always get all worked up about this. Well, Brendan, you don't understand. I'm divorced. It's not my fault. Brendan, you don't understand. I lost a child. It's not my fault. Brendan, you don't understand. This partner stole from me. It's not my fault. And what I usually tell people, I'm like, it's probably true. You're right. But this isn't about assigning fault. It's not about blame. It's not about pointing fingers. It's about having the personal responsibility to ask, what factors could I control during that situation? And more importantly, when I couldn't control any of them, what am I choosing now? I'll give an example, and it's extreme, so forgive me if this sounds callous, but I'm a high-performance coach, and I'm paid to challenge people. I was coaching two people simultaneously who had lost somebody, a family member, and it happened to be the same month. And a good 6 months later, one person was adapting a little bit better than the other. And now the current results in one of their lives were really not good. And as we talked about it, it was all the results they were having, which this is 6 months later, which were driven, of course, by grief, were easy to pin on and blame the grief. And yet another person, who's very similar, in fact, was coping very differently. Now, neither of them are wrong. Neither of them are perfect because everyone copes differently. But we ultimately have to take responsibility for the results of our lives, even months or years later after something that is tragic or traumatic, right? If I am overeating, or I am living in a terrible situation, or I am in a situation where I'm enacting other bad behaviors 8 months, a year, 3 years, 10 years later from some inciting incident, the truth is I can't blame the incident anymore. It's gone. That situation's gone. It's past. And all we can do around is ask, the results I'm experiencing right now, what factors can I control or shift or shape? I can't control that loss. I can't control this situation this person has put me in. But what I can control are my thoughts, my emotions, my reactions, my behaviors, goals, and focus today. And I can choose to use those to try to get better. I might need help. It might take some time, but I'm willing to do that because I got to figure out what factors I can control now. And it's not about becoming an over-controlling person, because I hope you heard I said sometimes you got to get help. But what I do suggest is that we look around and we own those results. I'll give you an example right now. I can look around the studio where I'm filming, and y'all, it is a huge mess. It's a huge mess. Now, I can easily say, well, I just moved. I moved countries. I moved studios. I moved multiple homes. I moved all this stuff. And, me and my wife have been doing all these things, and the business is doing this, and all these deals are happening. Oh my gosh, I'm trying to serve, all these millions of people around the world, and trying to build this growth day thing with everybody. And oh, you know what? This place is a mess. It's not my fault. It's all those things. But I could say, well, no, the truth is, if I took 10 minutes, I could make it a little better. I got to aim my focus and my time and my attention to give myself 10 minutes to pick up some stuff. 10 minutes today, 10 minutes over, okay, the next 3 weeks, I can probably get this done. Instead of bemoaning it and feeling bad to myself, I aim my actions towards taking action. I decide to do something. I don't have to solve it. I don't have to be perfect. I don't have to do it all in one day, but I can start leaning in the right direction, building something more positive, something more supportive of my creative space. Of course, there's times in our lives where there's intensity or loss, but just like our feelings, over a span of time, we have a tremendous amount of personal power in our results. I know, trust me, I know. If you're having a really hard time today, this is a hard message. And trust me, I've had to coach a lot of people, and I've been with a lot of people in hospice. I've been with people, over 20 years in some of the most impossible situations. We're talking about working with elite military members. We're talking about working with people who've lost somebody. We're talking about people who've been disabled. We're talking about people who lost the biggest thing on the biggest stage in the biggest moment of their life. Been there. And in those moments, it's not about saying, oh, well, take responsibility for these results. But you know what? Over a 3-year average, now we're talking about something different, aren't we? Because over a 1 year, a 2 year, a 3 year, the amount of personal power you have over your thoughts, reactions, actions, focus, goal, attention, your results is actually quite tremendous. That's why you always hear in personal development, we really do underestimate what we're capable of in a 3, 5, 7, 10-year horizon. We're super terrible at estimating what we can actually achieve and build over years. And that's why I'm always graceful with people. Sometimes, you know what? You're a hot mess for 6 months. Sometimes, you know what? You had a really tough first year or two with your infant. Sometimes, you know what? Business is down, pandemic happens, and you might have this really difficult time and struggle. And it doesn't mean that everything will change over the course of 1 month, 6 months, 1 year, 2 year, 3 year. I'm not flippant about it. I'm just saying that results over a period of time, we can really shape those. Your actions of proactivity, of positivity, of productiveness, those things actually add up as like a compound effect to something extraordinary. That understanding that our thoughts, feelings, actions, reactions, aim, goals, attention, focus, and results do compound into something helps us take personal responsibility, because it motivates us to realize that all of that over a period of time tends to lead to a pretty extraordinary life. Last idea today is that we're responsible for our momentum and resilience. We're the only ones who can gain momentum for ourselves. And we tend to be the only ones who can pick ourselves up off the floor. And I know it's been easy to get knocked down, discouraged, overwhelmed, and exhausted these last years. So I am here in Growth Day cheering you on, my friend. I get it. Believe me, I get it. And your resilience Whether it's now, next month, a year or two from now, you get to choose to pick yourself up. You get to choose to rise from this and be a more intentional, more healthy, more courageous, more action-centered, more positive, more humble, and more servant than you have ever been before. You get to get better. The psychology of post-traumatic growth is true, that a lot of people can take really difficult situations and over a period of time rise from it a more intentional, proactive, and positive person. And I believe that is what attracts us all here. I am not here saying any of this is easy. I'm just here saying it's your job. I'm not here saying any of it's easy. I'm here saying you're the only one who can be responsible for the things we talked about. I'm not here saying it's easy and you have to do it by yourself. Sometimes that therapist or that coach can change everything. I'm not here saying it's easy, but I am here saying if you realize the magic of making self-improvement a way of life, if you realize the momentum and the compound effect of what we talk about here, then you do realize that making this day and every day a great day to grow, that responsibility and that choice can change everything. If you enjoyed this Daily Fire, do me a favor. Go leave a review of Growth Day on the App Store. Tell people about what you like about it. Tell people about the tools. Tell people about what you're learning. Tell people about what we're building here. I ask for your grace as you leave reviews as always, because you know what? We're building this thing. And when you think about it, as you're listening to this now, imagine this small and mighty team having built this in just a year and a year and a half. And so we're really working hard to make it better and better and better. We keep delivering brand new content. We're live every single week. We're serving people in 70 different countries. We're really building this. And we're building it because of your momentum, your support, your cheering on, you sending people to growthday.com, you telling people about the ideals of personal development and how Growth Day can help them. You know, I really believe already we're the world's best solution for this when you think about the plan, the habit tracking, the challenges, this collection of courses and this collection of coaches, but most importantly, you, the community. So thank you for inviting people into growthday.com. Thank you for leaving reviews. Thank you for cheering us all on. I take it with great responsibility and honor that I get to serve you every day.